Good morning and welcome to this episode of Good Morning KU Sports. I'm Owen and we cannot wait to share all of the awesome sports content we have for you today. We'll start with Ryan, who will be giving you a look into how week 1 of the NHL regular season played out. Eli and Olivier will follow with our weekly Pick 'em with Greenwald segment and show us what their week 6 NFL game predictions are. After a short break, we'll have a college football discussion with Colton, Ryan, and myself, where we'll dive into what college football looks like as of this week and give our own scouting reports on who we think are Heisman prospects. Later on this episode of the show, Luke will report on the MLB playoffs and what the games look like. Finally, Sam will close with the weather and what that looks like for KU athletic events. Let's go over to Ryan while he will recap the first week of the NHL regular season.
Thanks, Owen. Well, it sure has been a very busy week in the NHL with record goal scoring and a hot start, so let's dive right into it. Bad news for defenses at other 31 teams in the league because the Maple Leafs parade is back on. Austin Matthews is arguably having one of the hottest starts to a season in NHL history with hat tricks in his first 2 games. The only other player to do that in the last 100 years is, of course, Alexander Ovechkin. Though they've been slowed down these past couple of games by the Blackhawks and Panthers, don't expect that to be the case for most of the season. Speaking of the Blackhawks, we can't skip over Connor Bedard and how he's performed in his team's first games. Fans may be getting tired of the attention he's getting, but they may have to start getting used to it. He's been decent to start off his career. As of yesterday, he has 3 points, with one of those including his first career NHL goal against the Bruins. He hasn't looked out of place yet, so it seems Chicago fans have a lot to look forward to in upcoming years. Though very early on in the season, the Sabres have probably had the most disappointing start. With all the young and exciting talent they have, everyone expected them to take a big step this season. They dropped 3 out of their first 4 games, but had an impressive overtime win on Tuesday against the Lightning. Nothing to be worried about if you're a Sabres fan, as this is a team that, though may not be ready to win it all this season, has a very bright future ahead. The reigning Stanley Cup champions Vegas Golden Knights not only raised their banner last week, but have raised their level of play as well, seemingly impossible considering just how well they played last season. The forechecking nightmare they were for defenses last year hasn't let up at all, and if there's any offense that can hold this level of play for the rest of the season, it's the Knights with their fountain of depth. When it comes to hot starts with a new team, Alex DeBrincat has been scorching hot for the Red Wings. After getting traded over by the Senators during the offseason, he has 3 goals and 5 points. This is definitely the best-case scenario for the start of the hometown boys' career in Detroit. My Anaheim Ducks debuted their 30th anniversary jerseys last Sunday against the Hurricanes and did not disappoint. Though supposed to be a bad team this year, if they wear those jerseys every game, they could seemingly go undefeated after beating up on the Stanley Cup hopeful Hurricanes 6-3. We may already have a Save of the Year candidate in Rangers defenseman and captain Jacob Trouba. Trouba sprawled out after the shot by Patrick Laine deflected off Rangers goalie Igor Shesterkin, supposedly giving Laine the 200th goal of his career. As you're seeing on the screen, it was originally called a goal on the ice, but the play went to the replay review center in Toronto, and it was deemed there was no goal. Lots of great stuff in the first week of the NHL regular season and hope to see more for the next 6 months. Now Eli and Olivier will present their NFL Pick'em plays for the week with Pick'em with Greenwald.
Thanks, Ryan, and welcome back to another episode of Pick'em with Greenwald. I'm Eli Greenwald. With me today is Olivier Dubois. Let's get right into the picks for Week 7 of the NFL season.
Yeah, I'll take the Ravens in this first one. To me, this is 2 very similar teams. What concerns me is the Lions' injuries at running back. David Montgomery's going to be out. Jahmyr Gibbs might not go. That could really affect their running game and their play-action pass. I think Lamar has a big game, and they find a way to win in a low-scoring, ugly game.
Yeah, I like the Lions in this game. I agree that it's going to be a low-scoring game. This is America's Game of the Week on Fox at noon in Detroit. 2 great defenses. The Ravens have been slightly inconsistent so far. The Lions have been very good, and everybody's expected them to be that top team in the NFC North, but they have exceeded expectations, especially mine. They are 5-1 with one of the best defenses in the NFL. They are ranked 8th in yards per game allowed with 285, and I think the Lions can compete for an NFC title at the end of the year, not only for the division but for the conference as a whole. Amon-Ra St. Brown, the Lions' #1 receiver, who has dealt with injuries so far this year, is healthy. And I do like the Lions in this ballgame. I expect to be low scoring. Both defenses have been fantastic. I've said this in previous weeks that this is the best Ravens defense I've seen since that Ray Lewis, Ed Reed, Terrell Suggs defense in Baltimore. But I really do like the Lions in this game. I expect it to be a very, very good football game, though. And then we'll go out to Steelers-Rams in L.A. 3 o'clock game on Sunday. Who do you like in this one, Olivier?
I'll go with the Rams. Matt Canada has been not great calling plays, and that's putting it very kindly. Even if the Steelers' defense plays really well again, they've been playing well, I just struggle to see them scoring enough points. It would have to be a really weird game. I'll take the Rams.
Yeah, I agree with you. I like the Rams in this one. I think the Rams are a sneaky spot for that wild card spot lower in the standings at the end of the season. It's still too early to tell, but I do like the Rams, and I think that they're a lot better than people think. I have said this before, and I'm going to say it again. I am so impressed with the play of rookie receiver Puka Nacua. He is 4th in yards in the NFL with 598, and I just don't trust Kenny Pickett in Pittsburgh. Yeah. I don't trust him at all. The Steelers' D has been solid all year round, but the Rams' D has been teetering up. They're aging, but I do trust Matthew Stafford more than Kenny Pickett when it comes to the offensive side of the ball. Stafford is not the same quarterback he used to be. He's dealt with injuries. He's older now. But at the end of the day, he's still a potential Hall of Fame quarterback. Coming off a Super Bowl a couple years ago, I do think that the Rams are going to win this game, and I think that they will win by at least 14 points as a margin.
Whoa.
Then we go to Kansas City for the Chargers at the Chiefs. Another late game on Sunday. Who do you like in this one?
I really like the Chiefs in this one. I just think it's a tough spot for the Chargers. The Chiefs are coming in with 4 days more rest. Charles Omenihu is coming back from suspension. I think that's really going to help their pass rush, and it's already been really great. So I think they'll get after Herbert, cause a lot of problems for their offense. And then on the other side of the ball, in the secondary, other than Derwin James, it's really been not great. I think it's a big opportunity for the Chiefs' passing game to kind of get going here. I like the Chiefs.
Yeah, I agree with you. I like the Chiefs in this one, too. The Chargers have, frankly, just been disappointing so far to start the year. They are 2-3. Chiefs have not slowed down after coming off that Super Bowl win. They are 5-1. And the Chargers' D has just looked absolutely terrible outside of Khalil Mack, putting up a 5-sack game a couple weeks ago. But outside of that, they have just looked abysmal on the defensive side of the football. And just like the story of their entire franchise from 30 years ago to now, the Chargers find ways to lose games. That's what they do. They can never seem to get it done when it matters the most. And the Chiefs find ways to win, as we've seen with Patrick Mahomes in the past few years. They win these big games. It's a huge divisional matchup. The Chiefs can solidify that top spot in the division. As you know, most people thought at the beginning of the year these were going to be the two teams in that division that were going to be fighting for that top spot. But right now the Chiefs just look pulling way ahead, look like they're the way better team, and this week they can solidify that opinion by beating the Chargers at home in Kansas City. Next we'll go Sunday Night Football, Dolphins at Eagles, a game that everybody is waiting to see. This is going to be a huge, huge game. Who do you like in this one, Olivier?
I'll take the Eagles. This should be a great game. I think the Eagles are going to come in extra motivated after a pretty surprising loss to the Jets last week. Both Lane Johnson and Jalen Carter are likely to play, and because of that, I think they're just going to win the game in the trenches. The Dolphins come in leading the NFL in rushing, but they really haven't seen a defensive front that's nearly this good so far this year. And then on offense for the Eagles, I think they're going to just try and hand it off a lot, kind of bludgeon them, try and keep Tua and Tyreek on the bench for as long as possible. So I'll take the Eagles in a close game.
Yeah, I can see your opinion there, but I like the Dolphins in this one. This is a potential Super Bowl matchup. I know it's way too early to say that, and that can be an outrageous take, but these two teams are both 5-1. They can both compete for their respective conference titles. The Eagles could be the NFC champion at the end of the year. The Dolphins could be the AFC champion. You never know. But both of these teams have been fantastic so far. I want to talk about Tyreek Hill. He's 186 yards from a 1,000-yard season.
It's crazy.
And it's week 7. That's insane. He could get 2,000 yards, and the last time that happened was, of course, in 2012 when Calvin Megatron Johnson did it with the Lions. But these are two high-powering offenses. And like you said, the Dolphins lead the NFL in rushing, which is a very sneaky stat because everybody knows they like to throw the ball. Mike McDaniel loves to throw. You see those stats from Tua and Tyreek Hill, they look like video game stats. You don't realize that the rushing attack is sneaky and Raheem Mostert has been very good so far this year. So I do like the Dolphins in this one, both on the ground and in the air. I think it's just going to be too much for that Eagles defense. Two high-powering offenses, though. I do expect this to be a very high-scoring ball game. And both teams love to throw the ball, so both secondaries will be very busy all night long. And like I said, potential Super Bowl preview, so all eyes will be on this game. And I expect this to be one of the best games of the NFL season, not only so far, but at the end of the year, I think we'll be looking back at this game and saying that was a huge, huge game for how the rest of the season turned out.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, that's all we have for Week 7 with Pick'em at Greenwald. After a short break, we'll be back with Colton, Owen, and Ryan, who will tackle the current state of college football and give their thoughts on the front runners for the 2023 Heisman Trophy.
Welcome back from the break. I'm Colton here with Ryan and Owen, and we're here to talk all things about college football, starting with our Heisman favorites. For me, I personally think this is Michael Penix's Heisman to lose, but agreed. I look at Caleb Williams, and I see a really good chance he could be the second ever player to win back-to-back Heismans. I mean, he already has 23 touchdowns, only 4 interceptions on the season, and he has an ugly loss to Notre Dame, and the Arizona game was a little too close for him. But the next 4 games he plays is against Utah, Oregon, Washington, and UCLA, which are all top 25 teams. So I think if he outplays Bo Nix and Michael Penix, it's really his Heisman to lose. What do you think about that, Owen?
I mean, yeah, I could totally see that. I mean, all these 3 players that we're going to be talking about have had like just fantastic seasons. And I do agree that it is Michael Penix's to lose, but Caleb Williams absolutely has a shot. I do think voter fatigue kind of sets in for those Heisman voters, and they end up going with Penix. But all these guys that we're going to be discussing absolutely have a case for it.
Yeah, and if you would have asked me, I definitely would not have thought 3 Pac-12 quarterbacks would be in the top 3 for the Heisman to start the season.
Yeah, it's kind of funny because the Pac-12 is the best conference in college football this year, and I've been jokingly saying, oh boy, the Pac-12 has just a great future ahead of them. If you guys don't know, there's going to be all this college football realignment, and there are only 2 teams that are going to be in the Pac-12 next year, so it's a good swan song for the Pac-12 this year.
Absolutely. And continuing on with the theme Pac-12 quarterbacks, I'm going to roll with Michael Penix as my Heisman frontrunner right now. Transferred from Indiana to Washington, really dealt with a lot of injuries throughout his career, and I'm really just happy to see him, finally have his big moments. Huge 4 TD game against Oregon. Had his Heisman moment, the late TD pass to Rome Odunze to take the lead back in the final minutes. He's a 2,300-yard passer so far this season, 20-3 INT to TD ratio, touchdown interception ratio, And I'm just excited to see the bigger games he has coming up against USC, Oregon State, Utah, all back-to-back-to-back. So if he wants to have a chokehold on this Heisman race, he's going to have to do all that, plus probably beat Oregon again in the Pac-12 championship. So I'm really excited to see this.
Yeah, all 3 players have had really good seasons, and all 3 players still have hard challenges coming up in the season. And with my top 4, with Washington beating Oregon last week, I obviously think they slipped in the top 4. So my personal top 4 is Georgia, Michigan, Penn State, and Washington. Obviously, Penn State plays Ohio State this weekend. That'll probably be the biggest game of the weekend. What do you guys think about that?
That's going to be an absolutely huge game. I could absolutely see it going either way. But I've got Ohio State taking it, and my top 4 is going to be Georgia, Michigan, Ohio State, and Washington.
Yeah, I cannot wait for that game tomorrow in the shoe. 11 a.m., Gus Johnson, Joel Klatt on the call. Nothing better than big noon kickoff,
Absolutely.
Especially in Columbus. But I do think this Ohio State team has some terminal issues with them that will cost them against Michigan and Penn State. The offensive line, I just don't love it. I just don't think this is the best Buckeye team we've seen in the past few years. I think James Franklin gets a statement win tomorrow, and Penn State, moves to 7-0 on the season.
Yeah, I really agree with that. And obviously, there's Penn State and Ohio State. Other games playing this weekend, Alabama versus Tennessee, that'll be a good game. And then Duke versus
Florida State.
Duke versus Florida State, sorry. But I think that's all we have today for college football. And next, Luke has information you didn't know about the MLB playoffs.
Thanks, guys. We are just over 1 week away until the 2023 World Series, and these playoffs have been nothing but exciting to watch with some really big upsets throughout. 3 out of 4 teams in the wild card rounds are still left, including the Rangers, Diamondbacks, and Phillies, leaving the Astros as the only team to survive being beaten by a wild card team. The Phillies have emerged to be the favorite to win it all after a dominating 3-1 series win against the Braves, who are the 1 seed heading into the playoffs. They are led by Trey Turner, Nick Castellanos, and Bryce Harper, who have all had amazing performances in the playoffs so far. They are now playing the Diamondbacks to determine who goes to the championship and are currently leading the series 2-1. The highlight of the playoffs for them so far in the wild card round was while facing the Marlins, where Bryson Stott came to the plate with the bases loaded while his signature walk-up song A-OK by Ty Verdes was playing and went on to hit a grand slam off the first pitch. I mean, just listen to the atmosphere and energy from the crowd on this play. The Phillies have got to be one of the most lively and energetic crowds in the MLB, and this can really help in home games to motivate the players and perform better. Meanwhile, on the other side for the ALCS, the Astros are back in the playoffs after winning the World Series last year, making this their 7th season in a row of making the playoffs. They're playing the Rangers while losing 2-1 in the series as of now, but are still fighting for the other spot in the World Series. The Astros are led by Jordan Alvarez and Jose Abreu, and will be very important to try and win the series against the Rangers. These games have been very entertaining so far and will set the stage for a great World Series this year. Now let's send it to Sam and see how the weather is going to look for upcoming sporting events.
Great, thank you, yes. Looking outside here to the west over campus, you can see the beautiful clear skies again this morning. And I'm going to give you a brief, I'd say, lesson into why we have these clear skies right now. So this map may look complicated, but is just showing the wind speed at about 500 millibars, which is around 17,000 to 9,000 feet up, or about 2/3 altitude of where a commercial airliner would have their cruising altitude. So we have high pressure down to the southwest, and we have low pressure to the northeast. That creates a funnel in the middle here, where wind is being forced through it at a faster speed. And you see how it dips down here into kind of a trough-like pattern? So skipping all the complicated math and physics here, to the east of the trough is where we would expect to have rising air. And rising air is typically associated with cloud formation and precipitation. Whereas back here to the west, where we are here in Lawrence, we have a lot more sinking air to the west of the trough. And sinking air, the opposite of rising air, inhibits cloud production. And that is confirmed on the satellite imagery here right now, as we have a whole bunch of cloud cover and storms out to the east on the east coast and into the Atlantic, whereas here in Lawrence, a lot more just clear skies as we can associate with the sinking air. As right now, it is a nice 60 degrees, sunny and warm right now. It'll warm probably to about 81 for a high later today, with the light wind being out of the west for this afternoon. And again, for the hourly planner, about 12 o'clock, it'll be around 71. Warm up into the low 80s today before leading us into a very pleasant evening, where overnight I expect it to drop down to around 49 degrees. And the wind will move to be out of the north tonight, which will help bring the temperatures down a little bit for the weekend. So you can give that Saturday, temperatures around 79, I expect. And then Sunday, temperatures in the mid-70s, right around 75. And it is there's no football action this weekend as they're on their bye, but there are other home sporting events going on, including today and tomorrow. We have women's swim and dive has a double header against Lindenwood and South Dakota. Should be perfect weather for that, even though as it is indoors, but perfect weather if you're heading out to that event. Softball and baseball both have exhibition games Friday and Saturday respectively. Should be again perfect sunny weather for those events. Women's soccer hosting Kansas State Monday evening. Should be 76. Might be a bit chilly as the sun goes down though, however. Whereas volleyball competing on Thursday against West Virginia. There is a chance of rain at that time later next week, but luckily the volleyball game is indoors, so it should not be a problem at all for that. It is a slow week on the away sports front, however, as women's rowing competes tomorrow at a very specific time of 12:43 p.m. in Cambridge, Massachusetts. There is a very good chance for rain, though, in that event. 90% chance of showers with a very cool 60 degrees. And volleyball competes Sunday at 2 p.m. at TCU in Fort Worth. Should be great weather for that one. And men's golf will be in Hawaii for a competition Thursday through next Saturday. Should be great weather again for that. Moving on to the 7-day forecast. Again, temperatures around the high 70s for tomorrow, dropping down to the mid 70s for Sunday. And then Monday warms up a little bit, back up to 84. And then for the end of the week, you have a chance for some more precipitation and showers move into the area, especially Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. So you could see a good amount of rainfall Wednesday into Thursday, but the exact amounts are still to be seen, but be aware that there will be rain later next week. Over to you, Owen.
All right, thank you, Sam. Yeah, looking like some good weather. And thank you for tuning in to another episode of Good Morning KU Sports. We do not have a show next week, but you can still tune in to Good Evening KU on Monday at 3 o'clock and Cheers to Careers at 3 o'clock. Rock Chalk.